Good afternoon, everyone. Is everyone enjoying Activate so far? Yeah, that's what I like to hear. I am Josh Goldstein, and today I'm going to be talking about the modern day worker in the digital workplace. Guy needs to stop laughing. Who am I? And yes, courtesy of our professional photographers, thank you for taking this picture of me. I've had a bit of a journey through Lucidworks. I started as a sales engineer, building demos, doing POCs, and really just selling to everyone about Fusion. Then they liked me so much, they moved me over to the PS team. So worked with a certain someone in the back over there with this Dart t-shirt on a certain oil and gas company. So I was on PS for a while, for about a year and a half, 2 years, and now I run the beta and alpha programs for product launches. So I get to basically play with all the new toys, and it makes me super happy. I'm family driven. I work very weird hours, so if you ask these two lovely people in the front, they know that it'll be either a 6 a.m. Slack message or a 3:30 in the morning. If you were looking at Will's keynote earlier, that wearables technology thing, that definitely happened at 3 o'clock in the morning last Friday. So, you know, it was interesting, but I had a lot of fun doing it. I'm a tech enthusiast. I remember anywhere from earlier to like 2nd or 3rd grade when I learned what D setup was. That was like, I thought I was the coolest kid in class because I knew how to run a CD-ROM drive. Another fun random little fact about me is I'm a tennis player. I'm a Floridian, grew up playing tennis, been playing tennis since I was 4, and I played college tennis where in the 6th position I was #1 in the conference. It's not that glorious, but 3.5-hour matches. Yeah, let's give it up. Let's give it up. All right, so the topics today is corporations, old school corporations, companies that have been around for a very long time. You know, in the startup scene, it's a lot different. And so what I've noticed through some of my consulting projects and stuff that I've done is they're not really prepared for the modern day, the millennial or the Gen Z worker. It's been an interesting thing, especially when I worked in oil and gas. There was a lot of like top heavy, old school methodologies that really doesn't keep your knowledge worker engaged. So I'm gonna go through a couple of things around what we like, what we don't like, how I kind of like do my job, and how I've been successful throughout my career as of this now. So let's start with what is a new age worker? The millennial. The millennial is a person reaching young adulthood in the early 21st century. So if you were born in the 80s or the 90s, no, you're a Gen Zer. You're a millennial. Anyone under 40 is a millennial. And then I like to call it the generation Tide Pod because, well, I don't understand why they thought it was cool to like snort and eat Tide Pods, but so anyone that was born in the 90s or the early 2000s is a generation Tide Pod or Gen Z. Any questions on that so far? Do we need some clarification on what a Tide Pod challenge is? Because wait, personally you have experience? Okay. Wait, that went the wrong way. This is awesome. How should you interact? So working with millennials, Gen Zers, we're very inclusive. A lot of my stuff, it's gonna sound a little repetitive, but it's gonna be all around motivation, keeping us interested in just what we do on a day-to-day basis. So for instance, like if luckily I have a new problem to solve every week, a new app to build. So it keeps me on my toes and it keeps me motivated because it's like, oh, I'm building this use case. So for instance, right now we're building some internal tooling using Fusion, and I'm just having more and more fun every day because I just figure out it's like, oh, I get to play with this new feature and that new feature. Also things with the interacting, you know, career counselors, a lot of us are going through that. We leverage outside resources to figure out kind of like what we want. I actually went through a huge career counseling semester in college where I did the Myers-Briggs and all of those kinds of assessments to kind of figure out what I was. I started as a computer engineer decided I didn't really want to code anymore, even though I code now. And through this program that I was in, one, it taught me how to be a student because I was a terrible student. And two, it definitely drove me to, I had it down to 2 majors, management information systems or new media design. And I decided to go with the technical management information systems because it was all the things that I love. And playing with new systems, playing with new toys is what I like to do. So how should you interact with us? Interacting with us is, we like to be included. We like to feel included. So even if we're not going to be in the we won't be the actual decision maker, but having our voice heard really does help because it makes us feel included, as well as maybe we actually came up with a good idea. Who knew? What else is on these notes for this? More about motivation, and what it does is it gives that sense of comfort. Like, you're being heard, you're getting your visibility, but you're also learning at the same time. So I remember in a couple of instances where I would sit in these meetings, I didn't know what was going on. It was way above my head, way senior management, but I learned. And I learned a lot about how they conduct, how they do the business. And then afterwards, sitting usually with my direct reporting boss at the time, I'd sit and talk to them about it. And then, share my ideas on the side. And they're like, yeah, that's actually not a bad idea. It's a really good idea. We're going to bring it and loop it into the process or whatever we were trying to strategize around. All right, let's make sure I do this the right way. Yes. Respect. Thanks, Guy. All the memes are compliments of Guy Walker up in the front. He'll be signing autographs after the talk. There is no such thing as a bad idea. That notion is very important to reiterate to your younger employees because we don't like feeling stupid, to be blunt. I've been in situations where someone has made me feel stupid and it did not go very well. We're newer, we're coming in with fresh ideas. We grew up with the Facebooks, the social medias, this, that, all those kinds of aspects, all this technology. If I don't have my phone for 10 minutes, I'm literally having an anxiety attack. So that really does help. Also, talking to us like peers. When I was working in oil and gas, I definitely noticed how some of the more older senior people, the engineers and stuff, they would talk to like some of the other employees in the company. And I was just like, you're gonna take that crap? Like, why is this person talking to you that way? Don't do that. Talk to us like we actually matter, because we're the ones that when you retire, we're taking over and we're coming in hot and heavy. Yeah, that was about it about motivation. And to reiterate, a lot of motivation. I like being motivated. It makes me happy. Waking up, working for Lucidworks really has shown me, and I've never been more passionate about a company than I have for Lucid. The good times, the bad times, the stressful times. If you ask any Lucidworks employee what their stress level was the week before Activate, we're all hands on deck, getting ready. Did you guys sleep last weekend? But it's such an exciting time. We get to put this conference on for everyone, and I was an attendee first for 1 year, and then as I moved into the company and helping out with whether it be the booth or training or just having the interaction with the customer, it's exciting. And these are the types of little things that keep me going on a day-to-day basis, because I know it's something out of the norm. That's not my regular daily routine, but I know it's an effective, valuable portion of the company that helps us drive value and drives sales, and we get to enlighten all of you folk with all of this great knowledge about a whole bunch of stuff with this thing called solar. Okay, I saw that. All right, so the last point, shout out to old people for graduating without Google. Yeah, so fun little story about that. I went to a laptop high school, and the rule was, in Miami, we get a lot of hurricanes. It just happens. And the year of Katrina, we actually only had 2 weeks of school in the first 8 weeks of school, which was awesome. We were hurricane tracking experts. So nhc.noaa.gov was our favorite website. And the moment that Miami was under a hurricane watch, our school policy was to shut down. I feel bad for the headmaster's email inbox because that thing got flooded so fast with everyone, hey, we're in a hurricane watch, it's time to go. But it's that kind of tooling that drove while going to that high school, made us all successful. So within your corporations, the tooling, it doesn't have to be sexy, it doesn't have to be sleek, it has to work and it has to be easy to use. The trainings around this type of tooling doesn't necessarily have to be like super intense, like click here and then click there and then click there. We all know how to use websites. I mean, we go on 100 of them every day. Everyone goes on Facebook, everyone knows. But we do like that sense of familiarity around like the Facebook-like experience. So like one of the ideal tools and one of these tools that we're actually building within Lucidworks right now for the company, we're gonna have like a feed, a news feed, or your activity feed, kind of like a Twitter. And it's gonna pull in my Google Drive, my Salesforce data, and I can get this holistic view. If I needed to look up an account, I would be able to see what support tickets are open, what JIRAs are open, and this is all on Fusion 5 and App Studio 5, so for all you guys that want to beta it, come talk to me after. But what it does is it allows us to have this comfort level. It's like the Instagrams, it's like the Facebooks of the world. It's familiar to us, it makes us feel not as training. The training doesn't have to be as heavy, as well as single sign-on. I'm a real big proponent about single sign-on because I love my password manager, but I don't like my password manager. Someone always asks me, my mom, whenever she needs to like log into something of mine and I call her and she's like, is it one of those damn passwords again? And I go, yeah, it is. Enjoy. I have this one with a phrase and she just drives her nuts. It's hilarious. But yeah, so having things like an enterprise search app, a customer 360, anything that helps us just get our job done faster, we like to work quickly and we do move very, very quickly. So things that certain people sometimes would take people 4 or 5 days, we get done in hours. Because once again, it's about our motivation. We're interested in what we're doing and we're enthusiastic about it. So we're gonna actually spend the time, and surprisingly enough, we're actually gonna go that extra mile and provide even more value than just what you asked. Like the wearables that I built at 3 o'clock in the morning. That's about it. There's a thank you slide. Thank you. You're welcome. If anyone has any questions, I'm here all night. You'll see me on the dance floor at the party, and I'm ready to boogie. I'm not that bad, Lucas.
Can we ask you questions here?
Yeah, sure.
I was just wondering, thank you, by the way, for this presentation. It was great. What can we, millennials, do to try to get these sorts of messages across to our senior leadership?
I'm a very blunt person, so I usually would just say, talk to them. Which is not the easiest thing. I mean, I feel your pain because I've seen it. So for me, I've never worked in any. Lucidworks is the biggest company I've ever worked for. I can't do really large companies. It's not in my DNA. But I think one of the things I think we like teams. You know, we're very team-driven and team-oriented. So it's gathering other millennials within the corporation, maybe putting together some sort of presentation and, you know, working with your boss and saying, hey, we'd like to present this to you. But at the same time, if you have to, maybe like if you have a special relationship with like a very senior level director or VP or something, maybe running it by them as well. Because then what it'll do is it'll give you that foot in the door to actually get your voice heard. Because the biggest thing is our voices are never really heard because we're usually, you know, coming in, we're fresh out of college, we're still maybe second, third job out of school. We're still kind of not at that senior level where people will actually listen to us. And especially in big corporations that you get buried deep, so low, that you're almost just kind of like a peon at the bottom floor hanging out. And you're just like, well, WTF, my BFF, what am I supposed to do and how am I supposed to get out of this? Yeah, and if you want, I'll come in and I'll pitch for you, and I'll be your millennial advocate. I'll wear this jacket that's not actually mine, so you know what?
All right, thank you.
What makes me uncomfortable working with millennials is multitasking.
Yeah, you hate it.
They always the feeling that less of focus.
Wow, Shelley. Right here, king multitasker procrastinator. Well, focus. I'm ADHD.
How do you feel about it?
You know, it's the multitasking thing. It is a problem. We do like to multitask a lot, and I do know that it is very counterproductive to multitask. I know my girlfriend gets really mad at me when I'm like doing work and I like send her a message and I'm just like, she's like, you're not even paying attention. I was like, yeah, I'm doing 100 things at once. I think it's more that comes with maturity. So as we get older, as you know, working through, it is something that we need to adopt even more, is the ability to just focus on one task, get it done, and then move on to the next task, as opposed to, there's sometimes where I'm like building a Fusion 5 cluster and then helping this person out and stuff, and then I realize I start making mistakes, and I'm like and then I'll like start messaging someone about something, and like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, oh, that's for the other thing, my bad. And so that really, I think that's more of a coaching. And as the older generations, which is what we want to learn from you, being seen as a mentor. One thing I was reading about was older generations, to connect with the millennials and the younger generations, is more of like a mentorship. So, you know, taking them to lunch, having the conversations. What? Having the conversations, and then, because then you can bring up things like, okay, how do you feel about multitasking? How do you do your tasks? And listening to them and say how they do their work also provides you with, because the older generations, they do have a lot of experience. They're very seasoned. They've been doing this a long time. So like, they know what's up. And you know, sometimes we think we're smarter than we are because everyone thinks we're arrogant, but it's the ability to talk with them and then figure out something, find some middle ground with them, and then maybe they'll do 2 tasks at the same time as opposed to 4. Any other questions? All right, let's go dance.